Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Naruto Was Justice League's Fire Shadow. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So now let's start this video. Back at the Watchtower. The very second Lantern came back to the Watchtower, he was irate and revealed that he had gone back to check for himself the status of the nukes. The missiles were there to be sure, but the nuclear material that was the main and the most dangerous component of the whole package was no longer there. Diana asked him if he truly suspected that Aquaman had done the theft, to which he replied sarcastically if there were any other Atlanteans they knew of. And naturally he stated they should go to Atlantis and get some answers, normally a good idea had Superman not shot that down. If you want to have a word with him back at Atlantis, John, you can forget about it. What? Superman parted from the screen to show the World Assembly which was in session right now, and guess who was there? Because he's already here, and from the looks of things it's not going well. In the World Assembly building. The people in the assembly were busy trying to make sense of what was happening and where they were working. The day had been focused on dealing with the recent loss of said submarine, and now they find the one responsible of said loss of sub in front of them. Aquaman was naturally making his move and his intentions clear to everyone in sight range and earshot as well. His demands in his mind were fair and reasonable. But to the others, not so much. Many of the people in the World Assembly made their own disgust with the demands leveled to them by Aquaman, very clear as one man, who no doubt represented the French government spoke. You and your people have the audacity to sink a nuclear sub, and then barge in here to make demands for peace like this. Who do you think you are? Aquaman replied in the same serious and calm tone as before. I am the sworn-in and sovereign ruler of the Kingdom of Atlantis. The country that is not recognized and as such has no right to make demands. Aquaman glared at each member of the assembly, making sure to focus first on the French representative as he replied. These are the final terms of peace between your nations and mine. Discard and ignore them at your own risk. The speaker then replied as he tried desperately to keep things in the hall in order. The last thing he wanted was a riot in the hall itself. But those demands of yours are outrageous and impractical. What you are proposing seriously undermines not only the security and defense of our respective nations, but our economic security as well. Aquaman looked at the man and replied. Those are your concerns and problems, they are not mine. That did it as the whole assembly rioted, and the leaders and officials were all standing up and were hurling threats and insults at Aquaman. And while he remained calm, he could not help but feel some level of disappointment. He had arrived to air his grievances and set his terms as Superman suggested, and now it seemed that he had wasted his time. Aquaman. The leaders turned and so did the Atlantean as Superman came along with John Stewart, John, Naruto, Corey, and Diana herself. As Superman landed in front of Aquaman, the Atlantean king spoke bitterly to the Kryptonian. I came here and offered them a chance for peace between their nations and mine, and this is how they respond. This was a waste of my time. Superman replied to that, hoping to try and salvage the situation before it turned ugly. Please try to be patient about this, things like this takes time. I have wasted too much time already. As Aquaman shoved aside both Diana and Corey and in not a gentle fashion when they were in his way, the blonde Hokage clenched his jaw behind his mask at the action done by the royal, who was now leaving the premises with a serious chip on his shoulder. The guy was a real hard case, and he was resisting the urge to do something about it, since he could understand to some extent where he was coming from. He had a similar situation with B's brother A, the previous Raikage when the Fourth Shinobi War ended, so he was not all the unfamiliar with the blonde Atlantean's antics. That hardly meant he liked it one bit though. The guy's about as diplomatic as a kunai up the nose. And it was fairly obvious that the same sentiment was with the rest of the team as well. John himself summed it up easily while he held steady Diana, while Superman did the same for Corey. A real Prince Charming this guy. Naruto nodded as he and the others decided to move out and try to convince Aquaman to at least try again and find a compromise. They knew that unless he found a way to work with the people, it was not going to end well. However, as the man came out of the building, he was quickly beset by the media who asked him all manner of questions. And a fair number of said questions were not all that flattering either. He was more than willing to ignore it, and also the calls of the League to slow down and try to take the diplomatic route again. That was soon changed however when he was suddenly attacked by what appeared to be a missile. It missed most of the bystanders nearby, as well as the media who had been following the Atlantean, but it nearly clipped him. However, before another attack could be made on the obviously injured Atlantean, the League stepped in. Naruto reached out with his senjutsu senses to track the attacker and pin him down, and he managed to sense a faint signature fleeing the scene, but right now getting Aquaman to medical treatment was high priority. Thus he had to cut any attempt to chase down the man. Besides seeing that Batman was up to something, he decided to let the Dark Knight make his own move. In Atlantis. The news of the attack on Aquaman had spread quickly as they had, despite their less than stellar liking for the surface dwellers, they found it prudent to monitor them. That naturally meant that they were also tuned into the news, and the fact that their king had been attacked had been really alarming. In the command center of the Atlantean military, junior officers were still trying to figure out what the next move was, while the senior ones were now on the move to try and work on dealing with the news. However, before they could make plans, someone else got into the act and carrying the trident that symbolized the kingship of Atlantis, and the person in question is none other than Orm. We cannot spend what time we have left in mourning. We will make the surface dwellers pay for their crimes. Muster our forces. While some of the younger officers were smiling at the chance to avenge their fallen king under Orm, the more senior ones nearby spoke. Lord Orm, even if you are indeed the brother of our king, you do not have yet the authority to command the military to rise up in arms. We have not yet confirmed the status of the king, and the next in line is your nephew due to the rules of succession. Who is yet a baby general. I am acting as regent until this crisis is dealt with, as he cannot rule in his current age. Until we make the surface dwellers pay for the attack on our king, I will lead our people in this dark time. Any other discussion was cut short when Mare came to the room. The military saw the distraught look on their queen's once calm face, and decided that it was best that they wait for a better time than to discuss their next plan, or what the current state of the king was. Orm, is it true, was Arthur attacked? I am afraid so, Mare. The news is grim. Mare was shocked, but she was not breaking down at that exact moment, since she was aware of her husband's resiliency and strength. We must find out if Arthur is alright, Orm. We have to know if he is alright. Orm gave a sad look and replied, I wish that it can be done, Mare, but Arthur's been taken by the surface dwellers to one of their facilities. They say that he is being taken for medical treatment, but I have not forgotten the fact that Arthur had been taken in the same pretenses before, but while he escaped that one, I am afraid that we may very well be too late. No, we cannot give up like this, Orm. No, we won't, Mare. I will need to work on our response to this mess. Please, Mare, let me do what I can for our people here in this dark time. Mare left with her thoughts in a mess, all focused on the state of her husband. She wanted to feel being in his arms again, and to be assured by his presence and his voice that all would be alright. But she knew that she had to deal with their son and keep him safe. Thus she headed off to see to her son, unaware that as she left a smile was appearing on Orm's face. In the hospital, the Aquaman's situation was anything but ideal in his view as Naruto and the others watched for him to recover. The doctors in this place had little to no idea on how to treat him, since his skin was as tough as a rhino's, as needles were broken a number of times. It was all bad until Batman came in and began to work with the doctors to house Aquaman into a specialized tank that used seawater that was conditioned to his situation. Thus they had to be nearby to observe his recovery progress, which seemed to be going rather well, proving that Batman's calculations and recommendations were spot on. Well, at least he's not going to die. True enough, Naruto, but I doubt that once he wakes up, we're going to be any better off. And sure enough, the very second that the doctors assured them that Aquaman was going to be alright, Lantern made his move, and proved he was just as diplomatic as Aquaman was. Needless to say, it did not end well. Finally, Naruto had run out of some of his patience and decided to act now. And besides, while the two were arguing away at one another, he decided to scan Aquaman, and what he had seen was enough to convince him to get serious with this whole thing. Will the two of you shut it? Naruto has enough of the arguments between Stewart and Aquaman. They were not going to resolve the issue of how to deal with Aquaman's attempted killer, and what happened to the nuclear material, if these two were going to argue like mad over the whole thing. The two looked at him, and Naruto glared back with his mask off and spoke to Stewart while using his senjutsu and Kurama's chakra. Listen here, Lantern, I took the liberty of scanning Aquaman's emotions, and he was not lying in the least that he had given those strict orders to have that sub secured and not to be tampered with. And he has no idea who did take them, so that means that we have a major problem on our hands, since that means someone countered his orders or outright ignored them. I am already old enough to know when someone is lying, and Aquaman over here is not lying about anything. Didn't they teach you to keep a cool head and try to find all the answers before doing the good cop bad cop routine? John stared back at Naruto, but agreed that the blonde did have something going for him. But that did not mean he was going to cool off just yet. The nuclear material was still a major issue in his mind, and unless they dealt with it now and got answers, this was not going to end well. Still, what Blonde mentioned got his attention as well. Naruto then turned to Aquaman and replied, "You are not acting like a real king right now." "What? You heard me. A king is supposed to keep a cool head and try to find all the possible angles and solutions to a problem, and acting like you are right now only adds more fuel to the fire. You said you want to avoid war for your people. Then stop acting like that and listen to others for a change. You are not doing your people and yourself any favors by what you've just done in that meeting earlier. You're a king, and that means being a diplomat when peace is what you have in mind. But what I saw in there made me shake my head in consternation, since you acted like a war hawk than a negotiator. I know you are not lying about what you told Lantern, but acting like this is only going to make you look all the more guilty." Aquaman looked at the youth, though he had long since suspected that his supposedly youthful appearance was misleading. And that action was enough to prove him right, and somehow his words had a ring of truth in them, so he sighed a bit and decided to rein in his impatience and anger for now. Alright, I'll listen. Naruto sighed in relief and began to run through what they know thus far. That assassin who came after you, I sincerely doubt that it was a random thing. How did he know you were here, what you were going to do, and the weapon he used tells me that he had a lot of data on you. You never told anyone about your little trip up here, since from what I know of you thus far, you and your kin don't like being on the surface world as you call it up here. No, I only spoke to my wife about it. Naruto nodded and replied. That rules out the idea of our assassin being hired by people here, since no one knew about this, with the marked exception of us. That only means someone in your land told him about your plan. Aquaman's eyes widened at the implications of the Hokage's statement. They've also got the attention of the League, Stuart most of all, since he could easily see just what Naruto was getting at. Are you implying that one of my own people hired that assassin to kill you and is a traitor? Yeah, I am. That's preposterous. All of them are aware that what you are suggesting is that of treason, and in Atlantis, there are high punishments for treason. Naruto shook his head at that, and he had good reason to do so. He had his fair share of experiences with the situation Aquaman was in. His wife Koyuki was one such example, and of course Akari and his father were another, and of course, reading history here in this reality told him all he needed to know. You might think it's preposterous, but I've had enough experience to know that it can be a very glaring possibility. Think about it carefully. If this was an attack by someone of the surface world, how could they have gotten their hands on an assassin on such short notice? Why the heck would he use that kind of a weapon to kill you? And how did they even know where you were going when you only spoke to your wife, and we were in our little base and never told anyone else? Somebody had to have hired that assassin only when your plans were revealed to them, and the only way that happened is if they were eavesdropping on the conversation. And let's not forget there are always dissidents in any nation. Yours is no different, since I can suspect that some of your own people don't exactly get along with you. Aquaman frowned at that, as despite his desire to defend his people's honor and reputation, the masked fighter did raise a valid point. His thoughts went to Brack and his recent speech against launching an attack on the people of the surface, even coming to the point of openly defying him in front of his wife and brother. And he also kept in mind that if that was the case, then there would be others too. But he was not going to accept that right away until he saw it for himself. You cannot expect me to just agree with you on this, even if your argument does possess merit. I need more proof in order to accept that what you say is the truth. Naruto shrugged and replied. Hey, like I said, it's one possible theory on how you nearly got killed. It's up to you if you accept it or not. There's bound to be others to be sure, but you'll never know which one's the truth and which one's the dud. And there's an old saying. Sometimes the worst enemies to a nation are not from outside but within. That man then spoke. We'll work out those details later. I managed to pull some data on who your attacker was. The man's name is Deadshot, a highly skilled mercenary marksman, which can explain why he nearly took you down, even if he was using something not normally used by assassins. And knowing him, the news of you being alive is not going to sit well with him. He will try again, both to finish the contract and protect his reputation. Aquaman spoke next. Very well, what exactly do you suggest? Superman replied to that. If there's one thing high-paid assassins love more than money, it's their reputation, like Batman said. That's how they get hired. The fact you are still alive, since we did speak about you being confined here, means that he will try again. We can however leak that while we have saved your life, we have to get you to a more secure location, as well as a facility with better equipment. He has no idea you already recovered, and we made sure that only that last rumor left the hospital. So, we lure him here instead of having to chase him, since we'll be spared having to search the entire city the normal way. Naruto grinned at that and replied. Well now, deception and deceit from you of all people, Superman. Looks like you're not the big blue boy scout you show yourself to be. Superman shrugged and smirked just a little. I have my moments, and I never did earn a merit badge myself anyhow. At any rate, if we do that, we can lure him out into the open and capture him for interrogation. And what am I to do? Stay here. John's a shapeshifter, so you can guess who we are really transporting. Naruto smiled yet again. It seemed that if it was the only option, Superman can be just as devious and downright underhanded when it had to be done. Though that was only to fool people, he was still a straight-up moral guy, and Naruto was thankful for that. He was not too keen on the idea of a morally bankrupt Superman being head of this team anyways. That however apparently did not sit all too well with Aquaman. I am to hide like a coward while this craven assassin lives. Naruto sighed. Trust the guy to spoil the fun. You won't help your people much if you are a corpse, you know. That, along with a bit more discussion, finally convinced Aquaman to sit tight and let the League deal with this. Naturally though, they left someone nearby to inform him and make sure he could wait for word of the assassin being secured. Naturally, being that he still did not trust the Atlantean king all that much, Stuart volunteered to keep an eye on him. Naruto groaned a bit mentally at that, and hoped that they caught this guy before the two of them butted heads again. This is like putting Shukaku and Kurama in the same room. Kurama and a portion of Shukaku and Naruto replied in unison. We heard that. Later, the League quickly moved about as the news crews around the hospital began to report that they were going to move Aquaman to a more dedicated marine medical care and observation station. This was all a trap, of course, as they were moving out quickly to wait for the assassin to make his move. The only one of the team who was not with them was Green Lantern, as he was watching over Aquaman, as they had moved him quietly to another room to avoid word coming out that the Atlantean was alive and well. All they allowed to come out apart from moving him was that Aquaman was still alive and was struggling to recover. They quickly got into position and waited for the right moment to occur, as Aquaman came out from the hospital in a gurney. They will not have to wait long, as the assassin came out from a nearby sewer and quickly moved to attack, this time carrying a much larger rocket launcher. He got into position and aimed his weapon, intent on finishing his mission and not care about who got caught in the head. Unfortunately for him, that was when Diana spotted him and told the others. There he is. Batman nodded as he looked with his binoculars. We see him. Before they could respond, Deadshot fired a missile, but there was someone on the scene. The Hokage then infused some of his naturally born wind chakra into his now fully extended demon windmill shuriken, and he quickly fired it away. Just as the rocket came out from the launcher, the assassin had no time to react, as the missile was cut in half a considerable distance the intended target and exploded. That had caught the people nearby off guard, and that was when the League was on the move. The assassin, however, had to push even more, as the blonde ninja was firing out several smaller shuriken and some spare kunai, while the others followed in an effort to slow him down, but not inflict fatal injury, as he was needed alive for questioning, after he recovered the much larger shuriken. The Hokage stopped firing his weapons, and then used his chakra chains to recover them. Once he was assured that all of the weapons were recovered, he then quickly moved down and landed on the ground with no problem, and soon began to run while using his tree walking jutsu to allow him to run on the sides of the buildings to catch up with the others, while using his senjutsu to try and track the man, even with the interference around him. One thing was sure in his mind though, this guy was not going to be easily caught. Sure enough, the man did. As he entered the sewer and sealed the cover, Superman arrived and tried to follow him. He reached to remove the cover, but got hit by an unexpected amount of high voltage. Superman screamed at the unexpected surprise, and was sent back smoking and unconscious. The man moved down and revealed that he had rigged a trap just in case he was being followed. As soon as he got down, he removed his clothes and was in his suit, revealing himself to be truly Deadshot. The mercenary assassin cursed what happened, and he knew that he had to cut the mission short. After all, what was the point of taking a contract if you die not doing it? Besides, he had a feeling that as long as he remained out of League reach, he could find the man he was sent to kill later. Batman and John arrived after the disguised Martian helped the people and removed his disguise as Aquaman. Batman checked on Superman while John went down to the sewers by being intangible. Deadshot moved past him as he quickly contacted Diana and Corey. Diana, Corey, be prepared, he is heading in your direction. Diana and Corey nodded as the two of them quickly moved off the building they were on, and both women quickly struck the street, sending out a shockwave that caused the road to cave down, forcing the assassin to the direction they both wanted. Neither superpowered woman wasted no time and ripped out the grid and moved down into the sewer, and the very second they did so the two of them were before the assassin. The man turned his right to stop as Diana spoke, though the man's use of low-level light only revealed her outline and that of Corey as Diana spoke. End of the line. The man replied calmly at that. Sorry, I'll take a detour. Wonder Woman had no choice but to shield herself when the man fired a grenade into the roof and buried her in rubble as he sped away. Diana and Corey moved the rubble away from them, and once their view was clear, they tried to look for the man, but it was clear that he got away from them. She however kept her cool and reported to the others. He managed to get away from me and Corey, but he's moving to the other tunnel to the right. Lantern looked at Aquaman carefully as he waited to get word from the others that the assassin was taken down and secured. Aquaman had indeed asked him of news, to which he responded that nothing was happening yet, and he had to wait. However, that chance never came as Aquaman turned around and quickly slugged the Green Lantern in the face to knock him unconscious. Aquaman looked at John Stewart as the former Marine was on the ground still alive and replied, "You presume too much." And with that, he left. Time to him was too short in supply for him to wait. Batman was not far behind as he quickly used his grappling gun to move out of the way as he placed traps on the path Deadshot was taking. The trap sent the motorcycle he was on crashing into the ground, and Batman spoke to him seriously as Deadshot was not the kind of person to go down without a fight. "Don't move." Deadshot however ignored that as he tossed some smoke grenades at Batman and escaped, using the scanners in his targeting system to move through the tunnels. Once he was clear and a fair distance from Batman, he climbed upwards to the sewer cover right above his van. As soon as he arrived and got into the van, he went for the driver's seat, but not before checking his van's stock of ordnance from guns, sniper rifles, swords, daggers, explosives and the like. Seeing none missing, he wasted no time in gunning the engine and make his escape. But as he did so, he was spotted by Superman and was soon being chased by the Man of Steel. He focused so much on evading Superman that he failed to take into account that Superman was not the only League member tracking him. Naruto was there head of the van and waited patiently with his now wind chakra infused kunai at the ready, and as soon as Superman burned the rear tire on the right side, he fired the kunai, 1 into the van's engine block, and 2 into the front tires. The wind-enhanced blades had no trouble cutting through the metal, and soon burying themselves deep in the vehicle. This stopped the vehicle and sent it crashing hard, though Deadshot was alive, but not able to go anywhere as Superman came and extracted him from the vehicle. The mercenary was more than willing to talk now as he knew that escape was impossible. Okay, I give up. Superman wasted little time as he knew that they had to hurry, since he knew that the longer this went on, the higher the chance Aquaman would pack up and leave and make the situation worse. You were trying to kill Aquaman, why? Deadshot decided to take the more sarcastic route in this matter, as the others arrived though John was a bit late. Oh, that's a good question there. Why would a hired gun try to kill someone? Simple, I was paid to do it. Diana and Corey landed on either side of one another, as the raven-haired woman and the red-haired alien woman were ready to find out what was going on as Batman, John, and Naruto. Diana was the one to speak first and looked at the captured mercenary Deadshot. Then who gave you that order? Yes, I would like to know who ordered you to attack Aquaman as well. The mercenary looked at both the Amazon princess and the former Tamaranian princess, and had to admire the beauty both of them had. He was well aware that they could not harm him, since doing so would make him clam up and not give them what they wanted. So in the meantime he was going to have some fun at their expense, or rather at the expense of the 2 beautiful women who were there. Sorry ladies, but it would be a blow to my professional reputation if I talk. However, if you both make worth my time, I might change my mind. Diana frowned darkly at the implications of that statement, and amazingly enough, so did Corey as she frowned instead of having her usual smile on her face. The Amazon princess had a very accurate idea on what was cooking in the man's head, and the same could be said of Corey. She could sense the malevolent and perverse emotions being directed at her and Diana, and it did not sit well with her one bit. However, before either of them could react, Naruto was the one to make the move himself. The blonde Hokage did not need to have his wife Hinata's Byakugan to know the perverted smirk in the face of Deadshot when he looked at both Corey and Diana. It angered him that this smirk thought that he was going to be snide about this, and act like this was fun. His killing intent began to filter out of him once more, but he decided to direct it in a more straightforward approach. He walked up to Superman and replied in a very neutral tone. Let me see if I can convince him to talk. Superman was quick to see the body language, and could tell that Naruto was not happy with Deadshot's comments. Neither was he, but he recalled the amount of killing intent the blonde had revealed when he got enraged at Stuart from before. He worried about that, but decided to let Naruto have a go at it. The merc looked at Naruto and snorted. So the ninja wants a crack at making me talk. What exactly are you going to do to me? Naruto then spoke in an undeniably evil but joyful tone. Funny you should ask. Before Deadshot could respond, Naruto grabbed a long senbon out from his pouch and then jammed it into Deadshot's leg with blinding speed. The merc could only scream in pain as the long needle punched easily through his uniform, the armor, then the flesh, and the tip soon buried itself into the bone. The tip actually was coated in a thin amount of wind chakra to enhance the cutting or rather piercing effect of the weapon. But it was soon followed by another senbon piercing his other leg, which sent him down to his knees in pain, as the other needle was now buried into the bone. Deadshot looked up at the Hokage in shock and shouted at him. What the fuck? Naruto, however, replied with a hard slap into the face that sent Deadshot to land on the ground, with the sound of what was cracked teeth, as Naruto then made him move back to his knees, as he spoke in a cold, merciless tone. Watch your language, merc. You should consider yourself lucky I didn't drive those senbon in far more vital areas. Now, do I have your attention? Deadshot swore and tried to attack Naruto, only for Naruto to suddenly grab one senbon, namely the one buried in the right thigh of the merc, and he then channeled lightning chakra into the needle. The needle lit up briefly and crackled as lightning danced over the metal, and soon Deadshot was screaming in pain as he felt he was being electrocuted. Just as briefly as the pain hit him in the face, the blonde cut the flow of lightning chakra to the needle, and in turn into Deadshot. Let me repeat that, do I have your attention? Yeah, you sick mo. Finish that last sentence, Deadshot, and I will fire enough lightning into your nerve system and your heart in particular to give you a heart attack. Or I could fire enough to actually boil all the liquid in your body to the point you'll know what it's like to be a turkey in a microwave. So, one more time before I decide to fry you, do I have your attention? Yeah, you do. Stop it already. Naruto snorted and replied. Not until you listen to what I have to say, merc. First, you will apologize to both Wonder Woman and Starfire. And second, you are going to tell us who hired you to kill Aquaman. What? Naruto growled at that and replied. Don't pretend you did not hear me, fool. You will apologize to Wonder Woman and Starfire, or else I am going to make you feel pain like you wouldn't believe. Take this as a warning. I happen to have a very high level of respect for both Wonder Woman and Starfire. Both are trusted allies of mine, and I consider them to be important to me enough that I will gladly fight to the death to make sure no one harms them. That includes you merc trash. If you had cooperated you would not be in this situation, so where is the apology? Deadshot was not going to go down quietly though and shouted, "Go fuck yourself you freak. And the same goes for your bitch friends too." Naruto growled at that and then grabbed the other senbon, and then pumped a larger dosage of lightning chakra into Deadshot than before. Not enough to kill to be sure, but to hurt the man like there was no tomorrow. The man screamed and writhed in pain as arcs of lightning surrounded him and came from the senbon. His pain only grew as the energy flowed through his bones as well, which really hurt like crazy. This lasted for only 4 seconds before Naruto powered down, but Deadshot was groaning and twitching in pain. Naruto waited a bit until Deadshot was coherent and replied, "Let's try that again since I am going to pretend I did not hear you call my friends that. Apologize to them." "Screw you." That choice of words lets up the amps then. Soon Deadshot was writhing in agony as lightning coursed through him, only this time the arcs were larger and more potent, as he wailed desperately in pain. Naruto did not reach lethal point yet, but he was tempted to do so after the insults. He soon stopped and this time Deadshot was smoking a bit, gasping for air and obviously twitching harder than ever before. Naruto stopped the flow and spoke once more. "I hope you can smell yourself Deadshot, cause right now you smell like fried chicken, so unless you want to be roasted, you will apologize." "Fuck you." Naruto sighed and replied, "Alright then, let's really amp it up." And sure enough, the merc was subjected to double the power as before, still in the non-lethal range, but definitely enough to cause serious damage to nerves and muscles, as the merc twitched and shuddered as the pain increased for him. Soon Deadshot was really in pain and gasping from the effects as Naruto spoke once more, once he stopped trying to literally light the man up. "You think I am not going to go too far, Deadshot? Think again. If I have to fire enough lightning energy into you to literally light you up like a Christmas tree, I will. And if I have to go as far as to unleash enough lightning into you to actually let us see your skeleton, I will. I will do what I have to in order to prevent a war you started when you did that to Aquaman, as well as demand an apology for the bullshit you spewed at my friends. Now either you do as I said or..." Deadshot couldn't take any more and shouted, Alright, I'm sorry. That is not how you do it, merc. Do it again." "What?" Naruto made him look at Wonder Woman and then to Starfire, who were surprised at all this, and he then spoke. "You will look each of them in the eye, and you will say their names in perfect order and apologize for your words. You will mean every last word of it, because if you lie, and believe me I can sense when one is lying, I will really make you scream in pain. And you will show respect to women in the near future. And if you don't and I find out about it, well then, it's human Christmas tree time for you." Deadshot did not hesitate to do it as he looked first at Diana and apologized using her full name, and then did the same to Kori. Once that was over and Naruto seemed satisfied with it, he spoke once more. "Alright, not so hard to say sorry now, is it, merc? Now then, on to the second question. Who hired you to kill Aquaman?" I don't know who hired me. All I got was the fish guy's name in my payment. I never ask questions about the target and who's the one placing the hit." That man soon stepped in, though he kept an eye on the actually century-old blonde ninja, who still had his hands on the senbon. The show that Naruto gave when he showed a more ruthless side to himself was new, but he ignored that, and he figured he could talk to the blonde later, once Deadshot was done talking. "That is not good enough, Deadshot." Naruto nodded a bit and replied, "Pretty vague too, shall I?" "No? No more, damn it. Let me finish here. The only thing that was weird is how I was paid. Look, it's in the van." Superman took the cue and so did Batman as the pair headed to the mercenaries' truck, and soon found a chest and broke it open. There they found coins, all made of solid gold and with markings, all of which were easily recognized by the Dark Knight. Spanish doubloons, all during the colonization period of Spain, each is worth Atlas $100,000 right now. Superman nodded in agreement and spoke as well. "And all of them are in mint condition too. Money like this is not found anywhere, and certainly not in amounts like this. Only place that this many could be found is from a sunken treasure ship." John then commented, "Atlantis is the only place then. The amount here is impossible to gain from any vault or collection." Deadshot then spoke. "There? You got your answers, now get this freak off of me." Naruto glared a bit behind his mask, and merely reached to the side of Deadshot's neck and pressed, knocking the man out cold. As soon as Deadshot was out cold, Batman walked over to Naruto and spoke darkly. "What the hell was that for?" "What? You mean the shock therapy Deadshot went through? We do not torture people." "I know, but we're on the cusp of war here, Batman. There's no time for being nice about it, not with the lives of who knows how many people at stake. I never enjoy torture even if I seem good at it. It's messy, and sometimes the bad guys say anything for the pain to stop, and that ruins any chance of getting good and trustworthy information. But if it's the only viable option that is available, then I'll take it and deal with the outcome later." Besides, Deadshot already knew we could not do anything physical to him to get the information, so he was playing hard to get. Not to mention acting like an ass and a pervert, wasting time and no doubt allowing his contractor back in Atlantis to do who knows what. And what I've seen in terms of the money, the guy who paid him is high up there in whatever hierarchy Atlantis has. Superman began to grasp this and nodded. I don't approve of it, Batman, and I hope that Hokage does not make a habit of it, but we have to take into account what we've learned. This much money means that whoever bankrolled Deadshot is indeed high up in Atlantis. Corey then replied. Perhaps he is a noble then. Diana agreed at that as well. I can agree for Starfire, since only high-ranking nobles could have access to such wealth in what I have learned in my studies about kingdoms that are like that of Atlantis in ancient times, but that means. Batman nodded reluctantly, though he still planned to make sure to have the Hokage reign in or remove the need for him to resort to these kinds of tactics. That the one who hired Deadshot is a member of Atlantean high society or even one of the royal family, if Aquaman is indeed king, which means that if he goes back he is walking into a trap. Naruto groaned as he felt that this was way too familiar for his liking. Well then, we better go find old Royal Sourpuss and inform him about what we found, and stop him from doing something stupid. Good luck with that. The others turned to see none other than John flying back to them with him rubbing the back of his head. The impatient royal pain in the ass knocked me out and left already while you guys were chasing Deadshot. No doubt he's gone back to Atlantis right now. Naruto groaned and slapped his forehead in exasperation. Wonderful, now he's walked right into a trap he doesn't even know about. The others also felt greatly worried by all this, and it was Diana who spoke out what she felt was most appropriate. Hair, help him. In Atlantis. Naruto and the others were right to be worried as Aquaman walked into Atlantis. The whole situation for him felt wrong. There was a lot of grieving and anger towards the surface dwellers, far more than even he had expected when they caught the submarine nearly 2 days ago. He also was surprised to learn that the Atlantean military was being given a full mobilization order to go to war with the surface dwellers. That really made him concerned as he had left no such order to the generals when he left. What doubled his worries was the fact that some of the soldiers he met were stunned to see him alive. One of them even had the gall to demand him to halt and explain why he would dare take the countenance of the recently slain king. That surprised him immensely, and he demanded who had stated that he had been killed. The answer that it was Orm who had made that response made him quickly realize that something was horribly wrong, even more so when the words of the one in the lead called the Hokage came back to him. The words that implying that there was indeed a traitor in the ranks of his people and possibly the one who hired that assassin to kill him when he had gone to the surface. Can he be right? Can there really be a traitor in my kingdom? Is Orm a co-conspirator, or is he the one who is the leader of this insurrection? No. I cannot make such a judgment until I know more. But as he got to the throne room he listened into what seemed to be someone rousing others in a martial speech, and he recognized just how was speaking. The time has come, brothers. The time to finally bring the surface dwellers to justice for all of their crimes. We shall invade the surface and make them regret angering us, and soon they shall be our servants. The cheers coming from the throne room filled Arthur with absolute shock, and he decided to quit hiding and burst through the door. The cheers quickly died down, as many people looked at his direction as he spoke. What is the meaning of this, Orm? Orm then spoke as Aquaman came closer. Brother, I was doing what I felt was right. I had thought that you were dead. He marched towards his brother, angered at the sight of his half-brother wielding the trident of Poseidon, and wearing the crown, as if both were his. The line of succession in Atlantis was clear to all, and, as he could now see that his brother had not even taken the time to learn his true condition and tell their people that he was not dead. As you can see, brother, I am not yet dead, and now I want answers. Answers to what, brother? You ask me of that. Why are you ordering the mobilization of the fleet and our soldiers? I am doing what I feel is right. This affront to our people by the surface dwellers must be avenged. And what better way to do it than by using our technology and manpower to end the threat forever of the surface dwellers who pollute our seas and encroach our borders with impunity. Aquaman could not help but feel his anger and worry build, and he made that clear. I may have been injured in my time on the surface, brother, but I am not dead. I am still King Orm. I did not give any order to start a foolhardy war with the surface. I gave the both of you and Brack strict orders to. Orm glared at him and replied. You don't seem to get it, brother. I am now the one giving the others around here. Orm, you are forgetting that I am alive and I am still king. And as king I am ordering you to stand down, or else I shall mark you as a traitor. Orm glared and replied darkly at his half-brother. You say that I am the traitor. It is you who is the traitor here. You sold us out the surface dwellers when we could have easily overpowered them with our technology. We have the manpower and weaponry to end their blight once and for all, and all you have done is avoid it. You are a coward and a true traitor to the power of Atlantis, brother, and your wasteful and weak reign is at an end. That was more than enough to finally push Aquaman's buttons, as he could not stand hearing this from his own sibling of all people. Enough of this. Guards. Arrest the traitor. Aquaman looked at the men who were there in the room alongside him, Orm and Brack. He then recognized them to be Brack's men. He hoped that even with his warhawk-like nature, Brack and in turn his own men would still remember his and their sworn loyalty to his king, and that was him by right and choice by their father, and not some pretender, even if it was Orm. But that proved to be a flaw. Orm spoke in an arrogant and utterly satisfied tone to the soldiers with him and Brack. You heard him, arrest the traitor. Aquaman was shocked even more when instead of arresting Orm as was ordered, the soldiers of Brack followed Orm instead. They aimed their weapons at him, and before he could react, the others nearby grabbed him and held him fast, rendering him unable to fight back without increased force. There and then he realized that he had indeed a traitor in his kingdom, and the traitor was not alone, nor was the traitor without power and resources. That one known as the Hokage was right. I have been betrayed. And by Orm and Brack as well. You traitor. Say what you want, brother, but your time as king has passed. Soon, I will accomplish what you have been too cowardly and cautious to do. To end all threats to Atlantis' greatness. And when I am rid of you and all of those who follow your weak rulership, everything that should have been mine will be mine. With that, Aquaman was forced away by Brack's men, and he could only watch in ever-increasing fury at his traitorous sibling, who now had taken the throne. That fury was matched by the shock at the discovery of the fact that he had been fully blinded by his worries towards the surface world and the surface dwellers, that he had not watched out for the enemies who were around him already. He managed to free himself and fought off the people restraining him and tried to attack, but he was shocked by the trident, and before he fell to unconsciousness, he saw his brother smiling darkly at him before darkness claimed him. Orm smiled darkly as his brother was led away. He might be alive, and his surface world hired assassin had failed him, but that could soon be remedied. Once his half-brother was gone, then he could finally begin his rule and bring not just Atlantis under his rule, but the surface world once it was purged of the surface dwellers. And soon all of the world shall be his to rule as was his right as the true king of Atlantis, and any surviving surface dwellers shall learn their place under his rule as slaves for the glory of Atlantis. And despite his actions, he had to thank his brother, for he had the means to do so, and now he had the materials so provided by his unwitting brother and the surface dwellers. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below, and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.